welcome to Mystic Dog Mama, the podcast for soul-led dog mamas, where you'll discover how to best nourish your dog and yourself, mind, body, and soul. I'm your host, Dr. Alexia Meller. Hello, and thank you for being here for the final episode of 2024. Can you believe how quickly this year has flown by? I'm not a New Year's resolutions kind of person, but I do like to take opportunities to stop and reflect and to pivot where I need to. So I wanted to invite you to join me as I look back on 2024 and look forward to 2025. And if you choose to do a similar reflection exercise for yourself, I'd love to hear what comes up for you. This has been a profound year for me personally. It's been filled with real highs coupled with real lows, deep personal transformation, professional transformation and growth, as well as unexpected loss and grief. The full spectrum. One of the things I've been challenged with learning this year is how to be with all of these experiences and to see the beauty in even the most difficult ones. But more on that in a second. Excitingly, December 2024 marks 1 year of the podcast. I am so grateful to all of you who listen and who reach out to me. If you've been listening for a while, you'll know that one of the major reasons I decided to start the podcast in the first place is because I wanted to create the community that I'd been looking for when I was struggling with various health and behavioral challenges that Lucky was having. I joke that it takes a village to raise a fur baby, but oh my goodness, it is so true. As I say all the time, dogs are sacred mirrors for us, and having a dog, especially a challenging dog, can raise some really complex emotions and experiences for us. It's my hope that this podcast and the community that we're building together around it not only help to educate you about various ways you can nourish your dog and yourself, mind, body, and soul, but that it also helps you to know that you're not alone. Please keep writing in with what you're struggling with what topics you'd like to know more about, and even just to say hi. I love hearing from you all, and I'm so grateful for our paths crossing. Now, 2025 is set to be a big year cosmologically, and it's also going to be a big year of change for me personally, which I will be sharing more about. But I wanted to look back for a second to last year, December 2023, when I interviewed the wonderful author, artist, and extraordinary human Gigi Silverman, because she shared a personal practice that she does around this time of year to both reflect upon the year that has passed and to cast intentions for the year to come by choosing a special guiding word. And I love that idea so much that I wanted to repeat it this year as we look forward to 2025. I'll share links to Gigi's episode in the show notes, but today I wanted to share what I've selected as my guiding word for 2025 and to see if it resonates with you. I'd also love to hear what you might be choosing as your guiding word, so let me know in the comments or DM me on Instagram at Mystic Dog Mama or drop me a line on my website, mysticdogmama.com, and let me know what you've selected. So as I sat down to think about what word felt most resonant for me at this time, I had a list of a few good ones. The first one I thought about was actually the Hawaiian phrase Ho'oponopono, which many of you are probably familiar with as the forgiveness prayer. It's a beautiful word that roughly translates in English to make things right or to bring back into balance. It's a practice of self-forgiveness, a practice that acknowledges that the only thing that we actually have control over is ourselves, which includes the meaning that we make about situations, our perceptions, and the actions that we take based on these. It recognizes that any assumptions that we're making about anything external are tied to aspects or deep beliefs within ourselves. And we're invited to deeply love those parts of ourselves that we've judged and held in darkness and separation. I've used Ho'opono regularly in my personal spiritual practice, but it's been especially helpful this year during some of the more difficult things that I've experienced. It was also really useful when Lucky wasn't well, which is when I actually first learned it. And it's also been really useful when I've been struggling and feeling like I have no control over the things happening in my life. It's during those hard times that we can be even harder on ourselves. Ho'oponopono helped me to acknowledge the parts of myself that felt completely helpless over the situation, and the parts of myself that blamed myself for not being able to fix the situation that I was in. It even helped me acknowledge the part of myself that insisted on seeing Lucky as unwell, and that was a hard thing to witness. But in the witnessing, bringing it into the light, I could actually look at the wisdom this was bringing me. As much as Ho'oponopono has been a staple in my personal spiritual practice, I've decided that it's not the guiding word for me for 2025, although it is a practice that I've rededicated myself to. I also thought about a new word that I discovered this year thanks to one of the many Instagram accounts dedicated to sharing new and unusual words. I love those, by the way, don't you? Anyway, the word I found is respair. How wonderful is that? Respair, if you aren't familiar with it, means fresh hope, a recovery from despair. We hear about despair all the time, but never about its opposite, which is just such a beautiful word. It reminds me of glimmers, which ask us to focus on the beautiful things that are in our lives, even if they're small or short-lived. You know, I often talk about the Western allopathic approach to health and to life generally. We seem to be conditioned to look for what's wrong in everything. And even when we experience something good or we achieve a goal, we are immediately on to the next thing or answer with a yeah, but, and forget to actually be with the many beautiful things that are happening, even in the midst of really hard and awful things. Now, I'm not talking about toxic positivity because of course we need to honor the difficult things, the difficult feelings, and actually feel them. That's also what allows healing to take place. But it's also really helpful to be able to see the glimmers and to have respair even when things are hard. This was particularly true for me when Lucky was at his worst health-wise. I realized I spent most of my time looking for worsening health symptoms, and this robbed me of being with my dog. It also meant I wasn't seeing the times he was really perky and the times he ran around enjoying himself. Equally, it has been true when I've had some really low points this year. I actually have surprised myself by being able to come into a state of gratitude with those low points, even momentarily. I fully acknowledge that this isn't the easiest thing to do, but what I discovered is that these low points forced me to identify the good things that do exist, even when things are at their worst. Seeking out respair instead of despair has been so impactful to my own healing journey, so I wanted to share it with you in case it's a helpful concept for whatever you're going through. But it's not my word for 2025. As I kept reflecting, what I've settled on as my guiding word for 2025 is perhaps much simpler, but it's also so profound and also so hard to offer ourselves. But in doing so, there's a beautiful unfolding and deepening that I have found in life. And so the word I've chosen for 2025 is grace. Grace is defined by Merriam-Webster as the disposition to, or an act or instance of kindness, courtesy, or clemency. Grace for me is also an act of acceptance or allowing, of surrender. To give some background, I'm a Virgo and I 100% fit the eldest daughter stereotype to a T. I was basically born an adult, and I deeply identify with Monica from Friends. In fact, I identify with her so much that Stacey, Renphrey, and I, who you'll know from our Fetch First Friday episodes of the podcast, have actually named our inner critics Monica and refer to them by name. Monica has some brilliant qualities, but in my case, Monica developed from a deep-seated belief of not being good enough. And so I learned to compensate by being super organized, by striving for perfection instead of accepting excellence, and avoiding failure at all costs. This meant that when I have failed, it was soul-crushing, completely devastating, and often brought on a dark night of the soul experience because I'd hold on so tightly due to my belief that if I could keep it all together, I'd be safe and loved. But here's some of my journey of learning to offer myself grace, and not just to others, and how it has been revolutionary for me. It really started when I decided to launch the podcast, ironically, because right before I decided to actually take the plunge into the world of podcasting, I took part in a podcasting boot camp offered by Kathy Heller. She has a fantastic podcast all about aligning with the highest versions of ourselves, and she has a mission of encouraging women to find and use our voices through podcasts. If you don't know her podcast, definitely check it out. But something that she shared in the boot camp was so impactful for me in many ways, and that was her slogan of just do it messy. She talked about her own podcast, starting with her in a coat closet, recording on her phone's voice memo app. And she talked about not being afraid to make mistakes and to plan on learning along the way. I took this as my permission slip to just do the thing, to just try it, to do it messy, and to not have all the answers, to just start. And of course I've made mistakes. And of course I cringed at the sound of my own voice when editing. And of course I wish I'd done so many different things. But I still did it. And because I was willing to not only be brave, but to also show myself kindness and compassion and, grace, I kept going. And I feel more myself than I have ever done before. And that has led to some incredible growth. Showing myself grace has meant that I offer myself the same love and forgiveness and compassion that I offer others. It's meant that I've learned to cast a loving eye and ear on myself rather than letting my inner Monica tear me down. I've learned to ask for help, and I've learned to accept it. And thanks to learning more about my human design, I've learned to celebrate, not just accept, the fact that I love diving down rabbit holes and then pivoting, something I've been criticized for my entire life. I've learned to let go of the shoulds, especially the shoulds of where I should be in my life or how it should look. And grace has helped me navigate the overwhelm or the feelings of failing others and of failing lucky. I've honestly, finally begun to fall in love with the whole process of life just unfolding, instead of feeling like a failure at every turn because I don't match up to certain criteria, or being afraid of something bad hanging out around the corner. It's an unbelievably freeing and expansive feeling. So I've decided that I'm going to use grace as my 2025 guiding word and see where it leads me. I wanted to offer it to you in case it resonates with you. And even if it doesn't feel like your guiding word, I hope that my sharing it serves as your permission slip to offer yourself more love and grace throughout the new year. Like I mentioned earlier, there are lots of exciting new developments unfolding over here at Mystic Dog Mama, and I'm really looking forward to sharing them with you. Our first Fetch Friday episode of 2025 comes out on January 3rd, where Stacey, Renphrey of Hozho, Hounds and I chat about canine cognitive dysfunction and how to support that through fresh foods, energetics, a targeted approach, curiosity, and holistic health. You won't want to miss it. We're also opening our Fetch membership up for founding members. So if you're looking for a supportive community that helps you to take a whole dog, whole person approach to health, then reach out to me on Instagram at Mystic Dog Mama or get in touch on my website, mysticdogmama.com, and I'll send you more information. Founding members will benefit from getting in at the lowest price ever and getting to help shape this community in the ways that you need most. Speaking of what you need most, if there are any topics that you want me to address on the podcast or guests you'd like me to invite, please let me know. Again, you can reach me on Instagram at Mystic Dog Mama, leave a comment, or reach out on my website, mysticdogmama.com. Thank you again for all of your love and support in 2024. I wish you and your family, including your fur family, a happy and healthy 2025, full of many reasons to celebrate. Until next time.